Hi guys, welcome back to Crazy4Crew. Today we have Felicia Linsky. She's a department head, she's a makeup artist, she's worked in the industry for years, she's worked in television, commercials, and film. She brings a vast amount of knowledge to you, and I hope those who are interested in getting into makeup, I hope this helps you a lot. Welcome to the show, Felicia Linsky. So Felicia, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you came.
Thank you, Diane.
I'm so happy to have you.
So I was born and raised in Rockford, Illinois, and I consider myself as a cheesehead flatlander because I was spending as much time in Wisconsin with my education as well as Illinois, and then really launched myself out of Chicago.
From Chicago into what did you do before you got into the industry?
So my background is fine arts, and I was pre-med fine arts in film and theater, and I grew up in the fashion industry. And so I really didn't want to be a starving artist. And once I dropped my pre-med and I kept my fine arts and theater, I just knew that I needed to figure it out. And I really wanted to be the next Annie Leibovitz, whom nobody knew who Annie Leibovitz was at the time. So I ended up having a following of like 300 students, mostly men whose hair I was cutting randomly. And so that led me to go to beauty school so I could pay my school loans back, and that started me in my career in Chicago, where I was in beauty school and went to start working for the Clinique Corporation until one day I showed up with a pink strand of hair. They kicked me out even though I was the top salesperson. And it really just forced my hand to start reaching out to photographers and agents, and I got an agent and I started working with photographers, and I launched my own photography studio with my first husband, and that launched my career in commercials and fashion editorial and independent filmmaking, where I was heading up films, which launched me to LA.
And when you went to school, did you go to school for hair and makeup or just for hair?
I ended up, after my degree, going to beauty school where I'm licensed in hair, and you study makeup and skin and everything. But I got licensed in hair, so I became a platform artist. I became the only white on the black hair Olympic team. I traveled and really loved hair because it was an extension of my sculpting, my illustrating, painting, sculpting. So when I look at a person's head of hair, I automatically know how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to feel, how it should move for character, for personal, private clients. And that was my original gateway into my professional career. I actually thought that that's what I was going to be officially doing, to then ironically become a director, a female director. But when I was going to film school, there was no way that I was going to be welcomed in as a director, and I knew I needed to pay back my school loans, and that's why I went to beauty school.
What is a platform? You said you were a platform artist?
So platform artist is like being a star in the world of hair and products, where you travel around doing conventions and you're teaching and you're performing in front of large audiences in the hair world. And it's a big industry that people, unless you're in it, you don't know about it. And that's where competitions are, where people are creating amazing looks. They're predicting the future looks. It's like the fashion world, but in the hair and makeup world. So when I got kicked to the curb by Clinique, I literally started just putting one foot in front of the other. You know, I had the background of photography, I had the background of the arts, I had the background of theater and fashion. And it was a matter of me just getting it in the can, so to speak. So I needed to start establishing myself with photographers. And through that, I started building my portfolio and that's how I got my agent in Chicago. And literally rubbing two sticks together for, I say, the first 15 years of my career, though I was working, I had so much debt from school that I was literally like rubbing two sticks together until I literally built my professional career and reputation. And I was being awarded jobs. It wasn't that I wasn't working. It was this, to make ends meet was like, are you making $20,000 a year? Are you making $40,000 a year? But you know, I mean, nobody was handing it to me.
How did you transition to get from there into the union? How did you start working on films and working in television?
So I got my first independent film awarded to me in Chicago as a department head. Again, like self-taught.
Department hair or makeup?
My first job was department head of hair, but I had no idea how to break down a script. I knew nothing about continuity. I had never apprenticed under anybody. I had leading A-list stars. I literally was on my own in the dead winter of Chicago, you know, in and out of, you know, living on a trailer for 18 hours a day. A lot of tears because nobody was going to help you, and it was a matter of sink or swim. I swam until there was there was no stopping me, and I was so grateful for that because everything that I've learned, I've created for myself. It's not that I haven't been helped, but ultimately speaking, it was really all up to me. And so I literally got a handful of movies in Chicago, and producers and actors would ask me, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in LA? And I, at that point, was heading up both hair and makeup. And you know, I was going literally back to back to back between feature films and commercials and fashion print editorial work. And I was just doing that all year round. And then finally, you know, the man I was with at the time that I was married to got an opportunity to come out here. He was staying with dear friends of ours that are now the governor of the Academy of the Makeup, division, and Academy Award winning. I came out. And I just started looking for places and moved out here within a month's time. And over the next 3 years after moving out here, just hustled until I got all my days. And I actually aligned with some leading actors who are very, very well known, who tried to get me in the union right away, and the union declined me. And so I earned my 3 out of 5 years, 60 days. And on my 3rd year, the show I was on, our 11th episode, the name of the show is called Mad TV, turned union, and I became union, and I had the option to go makeup or hair, but I was the key makeup, so I went makeup versus hair.
So hair and makeup are the same union?
They are the same union, but ultimately speaking, you can only do one or the other. So if you declare you're a hairdresser, you cannot do makeup. If you declare you're a makeup artist, you technically cannot do hair unless you're personal to a leading man who you then can groom his hair on a set.
So once you got out here, did you already have people out here that were established, or you had to start kind of all over again?
All over.
And where did you start? I mean, how did you?
First break that I got out here was called the A-List that was being produced by a new network called Comedy Central.
Wow.
And this new network offered me the job to be the head of a show called the A-List that was honoring or showing the light on these 60 top up-and-coming comedians. Well, they're all the top comedians that you and I know today that have all the leading shows, all the leading talk shows. And out of that, I got aligned with Ellen DeGeneres as her hair and makeup artist. Out of that, I became Ben Stiller's hair and makeup artist. Out of that, it just cracked open doors. And that just was a little wedge. Not like a huge hello. It was just that's how it started. So Mad TV turned union 3 years in. So I had accumulated at that juncture my 3 years of 60, 60, 60, meaning 60 days per year. And though, ironically, Ellen DeGeneres tried twice to get me in the union with 2 series that she was a part of. The first series you would not know. The second series was the series she came out of where she announced that she was gay, and both times the union declined me. So I ended up on this show called Mad TV. So I went in a different direction. She did her show. I went off, got offered Mad TV. 11 episodes in, we came back from our Christmas holiday, and it was a non-union show. And our 11th episode, it turned union. And so there I was as a key makeup artist, and I was like, I don't know anybody in the union. I'm gonna stay with this job. I will let go of my hair, not my license, not doing it, but in the union, I will declare myself as a makeup artist.
I know with hair, you have to have a license. You have to be licensed by the state.
Correct.
Is that also correct with makeup?
Unfortunately not.
No. So you can just go to any makeup school and...
Or not.
Or not.
Say you're an influencer. Say you just, have a huge following. Today it's very different than when I started. We didn't have social media. We didn't have this network of put yourself out there and build this following. It was really hit the pavement. There was nothing public about it. And when you asked me if I knew anybody, I knew one person, and that person never offered me anything. And, so it really was about me having the perseverance and the sense of I'm here to roar, and I'm not going to do it with anything but integrity and moral value and hard work like I was raised by generations before me.
You do beauty makeup and you do special EFX makeup. So explain to us what special EFX makeup is.
Well, it's special effects, and all parts of makeup is a transformation. It's all about transformation. It doesn't matter if it's beauty or men's grooming, or if it's period or character or special effects. And special effects can be as simple as, can you do a bruise? Can you do a cut? Can you work with blood? Or can you work with applying tattoos or removing tattoos? Or then can you add either a silicone or a latex prosthetic that's been either pre-made or molded for this individual to create a character that they are portraying? And that's what effects is, and it's how do you effectively transform somebody to tell story. I think that there are some who do it well. I think that there are many who are very focused and dip their toe. And I think it's an evolution, and I think it's a personal journey. And I think that that's entirely up to the individual who does and doesn't. I said in an interview, because I have my own podcast, I said in an interview that, in the agency world, you could not be put before a client unless you could literally do somebody's lip so beautifully balanced that you could slap it up on a 40-foot building, whatever huge building in the middle of New York City, and they would never have to retouch your stuff. And then I got into the film world, and I realized that a lot of people didn't have and come from this kind of training or this light being shown upon them to have to make them this kind of perfectionist. And I come from a medical pre-med fine art background where medical illustration and opening up the human body was I had to tell story with the human body, realistically, scientifically, and truthfully. So for me, beauty, it's all about, I don't care what skin tone you are, I don't care what age you are, I'm going to transform you, I'm going to sculpt you with light and shadow, truly classical art background, where I am coming in with my fine art background and highlighting and shadowing you, but it looks, you would never know it by the time it's finished. So it's funny, it started with daytime television. It started on a soap opera of all crazy things, and called Sunset Beach. But most of my nominations came from being associated with Mad TV. Because Mad TV, I was a part of it for the first 7 out of 14 seasons. Finally, I said, I need to go make money. I need to make money. I'm watching all these people making money, and they're barely doing what we're doing. I mean, I think everybody should do sketch comedy, because it's talk about being in the trenches and really transformational art. And all my art was through paint. There were no prosthetics that I used with any of my characters. And it was really using your brain, taking a script, walking in cold, this is who this person's portraying, create this character, whatever that looks like. And, it didn't matter if it was, 7 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the middle of the night in the trailer while your actor's asleep, and they wake up and all of a sudden they're this character that becomes so popular. And that's like what I got to do, just really let loose.
And what about your Guild Awards?
Those were also, I think those are also all for Mad TV. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's hard to say, because I know that there were some other things I was up for that was associated with people like Marty Short, with Jiminy Glick and other things, but I don't hold importance to that.
Yeah.
And here's why, because those are just things you can dust off.
Right.
They don't change your paycheck. They don't change your reality. It's a bunch of politics. You get to see people's real transparent, who they really are. Yeah. And when I started to really see that, I'm only in competition with myself to show up every day and be the best I can possibly be. I'm not in competition with you or the next person. It doesn't interest me. And so when I get to see people for who they are, which I do on my own without being in this industry, it's enough for me to just kind of take in. So I really have to protect myself. So I think it's amazing that people get honored and recognized, but that doesn't mean it's always for all the right reasons, sadly, or that people aren't being recognized for who really is just brilliant. So I think it's just timing and good fortune. And I mean, I love that I have had these nominations, and don't get me wrong, I'd certainly love to be standing up accepting an Academy or whatever award, but will it make me or break me? Absolutely not.
And it certainly hasn't stopped you from getting any work over the years.
No.
I mean, you've been pretty much going full speed ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what union is hair and makeup?
706.
So union
in California. Mm-hmm. So the United States is an interesting. I don't know what your union's like, but in the United States it's kind of like Poland, Russia, Sweden, a few other countries involved. So California and our LA is predominantly just LA now. When I moved out here from Chicago, it was 798, which is the eastern bordered states, had the 13 eastern bordered states. Chicago had a 100-mile radius, and LA had the rest of the country. And now LA only has LA. I definitely believe in education. Mm-hmm. And sadly, when I came to this town, my education was very much looked down upon. And I just don't come from that school of thought. Yeah. I think education and expansion and ever growing and being passionate and always learning is just, it is. Mm-hmm. It's a need. And to judge people for being educated is just dumbfounding to me. So I personally think in my field, you can't teach people how to see. You can teach people theory, but I can't teach you how. I can teach you in theory, I can teach you a primary and a secondary and a tertiary wheel and how colors mix. But if you don't see that with your own eyes, I can't get you from here to there. So there lies the difference between those who are really genius artists and those who aren't, because you can solve problems. Because at the end of the day, I may be titled a makeup and hair artist, but really I'm a problem solver. I'm really a listener. I'm really delivering a product. I'm carrying millions of dollars on my shoulders, or a client's emotions on my shoulders. And how do I get them from A to Z happily? and fulfilled and complete, and either go make your millions of dollars or walk out and, shine on a red carpet, or, just fill your soul with just gratitude because you've never felt better in your life. And that could be a men's haircut, and just how I care for people, or just how I hear you and just deliver. So coming back to your question, I think that all makeup artists should get their license, because unfortunately the state in California now has just lessened the value of a license, because ultimately they just like to debunk the whole thing, which is insane. I wouldn't want anybody touching my head of hair who's not licensed and doesn't understand and hasn't spent, 10 months or 9 to 10 months studying, hair and cutting and working with people and being on a cosmetology floor before they even go to actually do a written and a practical license to be tested.
Well, you still have to have a license with hair, though, right?
You do. The hours have really been cut back.
Really?
And now I don't think they have to do. I don't remember if it's that they don't have to do a practical or a written. It's pretty crazy. They've cut it back to 1,000 hours, and somebody can be out there making money.
Wow.
I mean, again, when I started, there were no makeup artist schools.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
Right.
So that's...
I mean, now that you have it, you're on school,
yeah.
And now you want to get into the industry.
I mean, it's really your network.
Yeah.
It's who you know, not what you know.
So, and if you don't know anybody, would you suggest like cold calling like you did?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just getting out there and cold calling these production companies and say I'm ready to go and trying to get a low budget.
I'd just like to meet you. I'd like to introduce myself. I'd love to be able to apprentice with you. I'd like to be able to observe you. I'd like to be able to sit down with you. And it's really building relationships. Every situation is different. Ultimately speaking, when I've been hired to design a show, it really is about my reading a script, and from the script and breaking down a character structure, breaking down all my characters, the whole continuity, timeline, what it's going to take, what they're going to go through, what I'm going to need, how I'm going to be able to tell that story. Going back to my production managers, my producers, my directors, is this staying in the script? Because as you know, scripts change all the time. So revisions happen, things get cut out, So telling story visually is my ultimate, that's my job. So I go back to, as a filmmaker, as a film student, I go back to the theory of, if you could tell this film with no sound, with no script, like a Charlie Chaplin movie, how do you do that? With visual impact. You have to know. And people do not give credit to this aspect of the art, because this aspect of the art can really tell you the evolution of what people are going through and what they're feeling without ever hearing what they've ever said or music that's playing in the background. It's pretty powerful. So
I think that's a good place to end. I think that's a great interview. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank
I
you.
think that'll give people insight of what you do and, the passion and dedication that it takes to make it in your field.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay.
At least a glimmer.
Okay.